Welcome to the Never Yield podcast. Today is Tuesday, December the 16th, and on today's pod, we will break down the Hogs' huge win over the Texas Tech Red Raiders. We'll talk about Ryan Silverfield's additions to his staff he's making, and the 2026 football schedule has been released. So we will look at that and touch on that and kind of give our early thoughts about how that looks. Usually we get blistered with the SEC schedule, but I don't feel like it's quite as bad as it has been. So we'll do all that today. Andrew hopefully will be hopping in with us here in a little bit. He's got some stuff going on, but anyways, man, Hoop Hogs. Whew. Go down to Dallas, Bud Walton South, and they take care of the Texas Tech Red Raiders, 16th ranked, 93-86. What an unbelievable game by the Razorbacks. What an unbelievable atmosphere. I know I said last week that maybe it would be 50-50 at worst. I expected the Hogs to have a crowd advantage, but everything I heard, it was closer to 70 to 30% Razorback fans. Maybe even more than that, and they were loud. Some of the pictures I've seen on Twitter of the hog calls late, everybody's wearing red because Texas Tech's red also, so it was hard to tell. But when you get those pictures of the calling the Hogs, you can really kind of see the split, and it looked every bit of 70-30, and they were loud. It's like a home game. It's always fun playing in Dallas, metro area, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, because it's an easy trip for us up here in Northwest Arkansas, Central Arkansas, and then obviously the huge contingency of Razorback fans in the DFW area. But man, what a game. This basketball team, boy, they're fun to watch. They are fun to watch. And even the teams that have won in the past, I think a couple of those, for sure, one of those Musselman teams, and even last year to an extent, for a majority of the year, even though they were good, sometimes these teams are hard to watch. They're hard on the eyes. They struggled to score the ball. But man, this team's not only good, but they're fun to watch. They play really hard, super talented offensively. They're starting to find their identity on defense, which is something that, if you've listened to the pod, I've been saying for a while that defensively, they got a lot to figure out, and it seems like they're starting to figure it out. Everything from their ball screen coverages to their defensive rotations to just their intensity. They turned up some full court pressure. It's really the first time we've seen that for any length at all. I guess so Texas Tech on Saturday, so that was nice to see. But man, yeah, I'm getting really excited. Trying to pump the brakes on my excitement about this basketball team because when they got it clicking on both ends of the floor and everybody's starting to fill in their roles and play good on the same night, I think it's a legitimate Final Four contender. I really do, and you could even see some of those teams, with Muss in the past. We went to 2 Elite Eights, or Sweet 16s. But we always kind of got it handed to us in those games. So they may not quite have been Final Four level quality teams. Obviously, the year we ran into UConn in Vegas, UConn was beating everybody like a drum. And then when Duke and Palo beat us in the Elite Eight. And so, this team just feels a little different. And we kind of saw that potential early in the year in those first exhibition games. And then it's kind of taken them a while to get back to it. But 93-86, high scoring affair in Dallas on Saturday. Initially when the game first started, it was really evident that what Grant McCaslin and the Raiders' game plan was going to be, at least to start, and it was going to be to slow the game down. Obviously, they're not very deep anyway, and they have a couple injuries to some role players. Not any of their dudes, but a couple of their role players, they have injuries. And he only, excuse me, he only played six. He played six guys. He played JT Toppin and Christian Anderson 40 minutes each. So, I mean, didn't take him out of the game. So that kind of shows, their depth problems right now. And they came out in probably the first, 5 or 6 possessions. They threw the ball to Toppin or one of those other guys on the block and just one-on-one. And they made it very clear that they were going to try to bully us inside, just like they did last year in the Sweet 16. They're going to try to throw it inside and bully us. They saw what Boozer did to us. They saw what Michigan State did to us, and that was their game plan. And the game was really slow. They worked the shot clock down. They throw it into the post. We decided not to double coming out of the gate. We're just going to play one-on-one in the post, and it was good for them. They would get a bucket or get to the free throw line or go get an offensive rebound, and it took us out of transition because they were running the shot clock down to under 5 or 6 seconds and making it tough and really just making it a muddy game and slowing the pace down. And so, I was a little bit frustrated watching it because I was just kind of surprised that we didn't try to run two at Toppin early. I think he had, 14 points in the first 10 minutes of the game. I mean, he was on pace for 50. And then they decided to start doubling a little bit. And I was still frustrated early when we started doubling because it looks like we were slow out of our rotations. We were leaving Anderson on a rotation out of a double. It looked like we weren't prepared to start the game defensively. I saw people on Twitter that were griping about the offense and it looked lethargic, and I've replied to several of them on Twitter. And I was like, what game are y'all watching? The defense is the game right now that is struggling. The game plan, the effort, the communication, the rotations, it was just all left a lot to be desired. Like I said, having a week to prepare, I was pretty frustrated the first 10 minutes of the game defensively, with what we threw out there effort wise and scheme wise. And then we kind of started getting the game going. We started getting it up and down the court. We got the pace of where we wanted it. We started getting in transition a little bit, even though, Malik Thomas missed a dunk, and we started pushing the pace to more of how we like to play in our style. And that's just kind of basketball, X's and O's. I mean, it's a game of two teams who want to play different styles, and who's going to be able to dictate it. And one of them may dictate it for a little bit. The other may get it moving eventually, and whoever style plays out better has the advantage. And obviously, the advantage ended up being Arkansas, scoring 93 points against a top 20 team in the country. I mean, that is a lot of offense against a really good athletic, top 2 or 3 team in the Big 12 defense. And Grant McCassin, he's a defensive guy. So, but yeah, they started playing better. Obviously, we started getting in their legs a little bit. Toppin started, he missed a bunch of free throws and started missing some bunnies around the rim. Anderson played really well. We have to just start learning the fact that Cal and Muss are different in so many ways. Like, the amount of clean looks Anderson got baffled me. Muss took a lot of pride in trying to knock out shooters and not let them get any off. But, whether it was the game plan or whether the guys weren't grasping it, a lot of times on the double teams, Toppin would kick it out. And a guy that was guarding Anderson, who'd maybe already hit 3 or 4 threes, would leave him to go close out on the guy that Toppin kicked out to. And then they'd make the one more pass and Anderson would get a 3. So there's still things like that they have to clean up if they want to really make a deep run. Just knowing their personnel and scheme wise and all that. But enough of the negative, man. Let's talk about the positive. Lord, Darius Acuff getting all kinds of national praise and recognition, and rightfully so. Once again on the national stage, comes out, plays 34 minutes, has 20 points, an efficient 20 on 7 of 14 shooting, hit 2 threes, 8 assists, which is where his game is really, really starting to flourish, is his assists and how he's seeing the floor. And he chipped in 4 rebounds. And I don't even know if he got a shot up the first 10 minutes of the game. The first 10 minutes of the game, I was like, where is Acuff even at? Because in his rotation, he plays like the first 7, and then he gets his breather, and DJ runs the 1. And you look up, and we've played half the first half, and Acuff ain't even got a shot off. And so, but boy, did he turn it on after that, man. He is special, special, special. And he's not just a scorer, which is something I was worried about early on watching him, was just being a bucket getter point guard. You always want your point guard to obviously be able to score some, but you got to be the general on the floor. You got to be the guy that can get the team, involved, and whether that's obviously just through pushing the tempo, finding open guys the ball, facilitating constantly, getting paint touches, drawing help defensive guys, then making the right reads off of that. But his poise is unbelievable. He doesn't get sped up. He doesn't get flustered. He doesn't get flourished. And for a true point guard, only 10, 11 games in, I think that speaks volumes for his maturity. But I'm going to just go back here a month ago, or a little bit less even. But when we played Michigan State, I mean, obviously he was going home, and that was a big game for him. But he had a rough game that game, but he ended up with 16 points, 6 assists. Against Winthrop, that tight game we stuck out by 1, he had 5 assists. Against Duke, he had 5 assists. The last 3 games against Louisville, he had 10 assists. Against Fresno, he had 8 assists. And then against Texas Tech, he had 8 assists. The last 3 games, there's been his 3 highest assist games. That's not by accident, people. He's starting to figure this thing out and how he can impact winning in more ways than just going and scoring. He is really looking special. His stock is continuing to rise. The only reason he's not a top 5 or 6 draft pick right now is, 2 reasons. One, this is the best freshman college basketball class in years, maybe as many as 10 years, how deep and good this group of freshmen is in college basketball this year. But also, I mean, if he was 6'5", 6'6", I think he's easily a top 6, 7 pick in the draft. And so, he's listed at 6'3", and that may be being nice. But he doesn't have that Anthony Black frame. If he had that Anthony Black frame, he'd be a top 3 or 4 pick, just like Anthony Black was. But he's just, he's starting to put together, and that's the cog that's making this thing special, is having Darius, that point guard, the one that can not only score, but can be a true point guard, not get sped up. He's so good off the ball screens, his reads, whether it's throwing the lob, hitting the roll man, giving that little cross and putting the hedge man on his butt, if they're trying to ice that ball screen. And so, yeah, really special. Trevon Brazile, good Lord, son. That, once again, his upside, and I said this in one of the first few pods when we started talking hoops, like, we're going to go as Trevon goes. Everybody else is just going to be, obviously you need Acuff to do his thing. You need Malik Time. You need these guys to do their things. But if Trevon is consistently getting in that double-double range, and he's hitting that shot, and he's staying out of foul trouble, and he's cleaning up the glass, that's the guy that's really going to send this team over the top. 24 points for Trevon, 10 rebounds. Obviously, he made four threes, 4 or 5 from the three-point line. That's not going to be every game. We can't expect people to shoot 80% from three. But man, when he's locked in, he is special. Uh, his rim protection, he had a big block at the end of the game. He hit the threes, and then in my opinion, the play of the game, he shot faked on the guy, and he jumped at it and went and drove in and tomahawked it. Uh, I mean, tough to beat whenever you got all these pieces starting to really mold and figure it out and build that chemistry. I would love to play Michigan State again right now. Um, People forget, we lost that game by 3 on the road at Michigan State. Their only losses to Duke, and nobody else has even played them close, really. Penn State played them close this past weekend at Penn State, but they've put the spanking on a bunch of people, and I would like to have that game back. That game was super early, obviously. Karter, Knox, I called it. I toot my own horn a little bit. I said in the last pod, between Karter, Trevon, Billy, and DJ, if a couple of these guys don't have great games, career games in this revenge spot, I was going to be shocked. And they could play it down all they want, and they did. And then after the game, of course, Trevon was like, I've had this one circled, since last year. I've been waiting a long time for this game. Like, I mean, they wanted this one bad. And that's, once again, Karter Knox, 20 points on 8 of 11, 3 of 4 from 3. That's the Karter we got to have. He's got to be able to chip in, not just hitting the shot. Technically, he's our highest percentage three-point shooter, but he was getting to the rim. He had a couple dunks, an alley-oop. He had a couple great finishes in transition. That's the Karter that's going to have to, be more solid more often for this team to continue to grow and flourish how it should. DJ, he was kind of quiet, but he had 28 points, or 28 minutes. He only had 4 points, but once again, DJ, I feel good when DJ's out there. 28 minutes, 1 turnover, the ball's in his hands a lot. He missed a tough kind of left-handed contested layup late that I thought would have really have iced it. Had a couple open threes that rattled out. But DJ was DJ. He probably could have done a little bit more, but man, I like when DJ's in the game. Malik Ewing continues to grow and get better. I don't know if Cal will end up starting him or not. He's playing a lot better than Pringle right now. Pringle's the only one on the roster for the last 2 or 3 games has been kind of underwhelming. But Malik Ewing played 18 minutes, Nick Pringle played 11. And that is maybe the first time all year that Ewan has passed Pringle in minutes. And so, but he's got a little bit of back to the basket game. It's not always pretty, but somehow he gets it to go in. He's got great touch around the rim. Once again, 6 rebounds in 18 minutes. So he's starting to find that role as a rebounder for us, which we've said the whole time. He was one of the best rebounders in the country at Florida State last year, and he just wasn't doing it the first 6, 7 games. But yeah, he's starting to figure it out, and that's a huge piece. Billy was Billy, getting the big steals, diving on the floor. And then Malik Thomas, here's the deal with Leak. And I said this a long time ago, right when his basketball season started. He's going to get you 30 a couple times. There's going to be some games where he gets a quiet 8 or 10. Like, Malik was quiet. He was on 2 of 8 shooting. Didn't have his best scoring day. But he was 3-3 at the free throw line. And that's what makes this team so tough. We just scored 93 points on Texas Tech, and Malik Thomas had 8. Think about that. That's what makes this team different. So, really excited about these hoop hogs and where they're going. They really needed that game for many reasons because, with Houston coming up Saturday, you'd already dropped Michigan State and Duke, and you wanted to get another one to stack on top of that Louisville win. But man, the defensive intensity in the second half, the picking up full court. We saw some shades of 40 minutes of hell there for a little bit with the full court pressure. And I love that. I love that. Using that athleticism. I think statistically, we have the second best transition offense in the country. We are really good in transition. We're fast. If you listen to these coaches, these opposing coaches before the games and even after, they talk about how dangerous we are in transition and how athletic we are and how, their emphasis is always getting back and stopping the ball, not letting us get up and down the floor in transition. And man, if you can turn up that defensive intensity and use that same athleticism we have on offense and let that work on defense also, and let that turn into steals and turnovers and transition. Um, boy, it's going to be a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Credit to Texas Tech. JT Toppin, we knew he'd have a big day. All good big men have career days against Arkansas. That's just something we're going to have to get used to. I think of Florida right now, and I don't know the SEC off the, every roster like the back of my hand yet. But I can think of Florida, they're going to demolish us inside. And we just have to kind of just accept it. It is what it is. We're not as physical as we want to be in post defense. It's just the weak link of our team. We don't have the depth. We should have got one more big in the portal. We didn't. But, JT Toppin had 30 and 11. I mean, it is what it is. 14 to 22. We couldn't do nothing with him. I was wondering if they were eventually going to just hack-a-shack him. He's a 50% free throw shooter. He was 2 of 7 from the free throw line Saturday. But yeah, I mean, we'd like to see, somehow these guys continue to take strides in the front court on defense and limit these bigs. Christian Anderson, bravo, young man. Bravo. 26 points. We knew that JT was averaging 21 and Anderson was averaging 19. And Anderson went for 26, 5 made threes, 11 assists. I mean, he had a great game. He's a real deal. The only thing I don't love about that was that he had several that weren't even contested. And that's a frustrating thing is you've got to make these guys earn everything. And I think that's something we still got to work on is making these studs make tough shots. Not easy catch and shoot threes, not easy floaters, not easy shots at the rim. So that's something they still got to work on. Obviously, it goes without saying that, JT Toppin, it's easy to score 30 when you get an extra step half the times you touch the ball. Man, I thought that officiating was pathetic. And I don't say that very often, but I even tweeted, we have a Final Four level game of junior high level officiating because, man, it was pathetic. And everything you think you see in person, it resurfaces on Twitter later. People they have a lot more time than me, go clip all this stuff. And I mean, what we were seeing was right. Dude was traveling like crazy. I mean, it was just embarrassing. Even the guards one dude took 5 steps off an inbounds play. He caught the ball, went into a jump stop, left, right, left, then maybe one more. I mean, it was just hilarious. So I know it's a tough job, and I don't want to do it. I coached basketball for 14 years. I have no desire to officiate. It's a hard job, but Lord, at that level, we just got to be better. Got to be better than what they threw out there Saturday. Yeah, I know Arkansas shot more free throws than Texas Tech, and I didn't say anything about the fouls. I haven't complained about the fouls once. But the traveling was bad, and there was a little instance there where they called 3 or 4 fouls in a row on us, like just touch fouls that I thought were pretty bad. I don't know what kind of crew it was. You never know in these non-conference neutral games where the crew's from, but it was not very good. So I was proud of the Hogs to overcome it. They even mentioned it after the game. I don't remember who it was. Someone said something about, yeah, we knew the way the calls were going that we were going to have to create our own or something. But yeah, good for them. Move up to number 14 in the AP poll, in this week's AP poll. So move up 3 spots. And I think they're probably better than the 14th team in the country. I think they're a top 10 team in the country. But you're to the point now where people in front of you are going to have to lose. You're not just going to be rewarded for winning. You may be rewarded a little bit just for winning, but people in front of you are going to have to lose. There's a big enough sample size. People use the eye test now. Obviously, Michigan looks really good, and Arizona, my goodness, what they did to Alabama Saturday. But you kind of have your upper echelon Duke, your upper echelon 3 or 4 teams, and then after that, honestly, I think it's a crapshoot with about 10 of us. I think Arkansas is kind of in that second tier. I do know when we get to tournament time, there's a lot to be determined. I think if the tournament was today, we'd probably be a 4 seed, probably. I think we're just outside that 3 seed line, but I would like to avoid Arizona. I watched almost their whole game with Duke. They looked really, really, really good. Obviously, Michigan. I don't think I would hate to see Duke again if I had to pick one. Duke may be the 1 seed if everything ended today. Duke may be the 1 seed that I would want to be with. But anyways, really speculating now. Getting excited about tournament time. You remember, it wasn't that long ago where we weren't even a thought to be in the tournament. And I griped and complained, and everybody got complacent with it. The John Pelphrey years, the Mike Anderson years. I mean, this is what Arkansas is. Not, oh, are we going to make the tournament this year? I hope we can make the tournament. No, like, are we going to be a 3 seed? Are we going to be a 2 seed? That this is what Arkansas basketball is. I'm just makes me so happy to see us back where we belong and at the level that Arkansas basketball should be at. Not being a bubble team, not if we're going to make the tournament, but what seed are we going to be in the tournament? So, and that started obviously with Muss, and credit to him. And now Cal's hopefully taking it and can even push it to the next level, is what we're hoping. Queens coming up tonight. Let's pull up Queens and see what Queens has done on the year. Not gonna sit here and act like I'm super familiar with Queens. Maybe being from New York, they may have some in-state guys. There's some special talent in New York that you may be able to find under the radar. But Queens is sitting at 5-6 right now. The Queens University Royals. Let's see, lost to Winthrop by 7. So, we beat Winthrop by 1 in one of our worst games of the year. But lost to Villanova 94-74. I'm just throwing out some of their bigger name teams they've played. Lost to Virginia 94-69. Lost to Wake Forest 111-73. So, the first thing that kind of sticks out to me is defensively, these guys don't seem to be great on the defensive end of the floor, giving up 111 to Wake Forest, giving up 80 to South Carolina State, giving up 94 to Virginia. Now, Virginia's not your Virginia of old. They're not, mover blocker, Tony Bennett, walk the ball up the court, win in the 50s. They're a little more exciting now. But, I think the Hogs, should probably, if they come in focused, it's a little bit of a sandwich game in between a big win with Texas Tech. Houston coming up on Saturday on primetime in Brooklyn on ESPN. And so, uh, they need to come out and take care of business, not sleepwalk through. I'm sorry, Houston's on CBS, even better. Um, at 4:30 on Saturday. But yeah, they need to come out and take care of business, not sleepwalk through this game. Let's get this game over with quick. We kind of struggled a little bit there for a while with taking care of these bye games. This doesn't need to be one of those games that we come out and sleepwalk through. We need to come out, lay the hammer, continue to improve on both ends. It doesn't matter the opponent. You can always learn from these games. So um, they need to come out and take care of business. And then, guys, we've only got 3 non-conference games left, and then we jump into Tennessee. So it doesn't get easy. As soon as SEC play starts, I feel like we play Tennessee first all the time. Usually at Tennessee. Thank God it's at Bud this year, but that's going to be a tough game. They usually punch us in the mouth. I don't feel like we ever win our first SEC game ever. But yeah, we've only got 3 games left till we jump into big one with the Vols. Leave a comment, man. Tell me what you think about this basketball team. Where you think we're at, where you think we're headed. What excites you about this team? Um, who's your favorite player, and so on. And we'll continue to talk about it. Moving on to Ryan Silverfield continues to put his staff together, and it's all but done, unless they hire a linebackers coach, which I don't know if they will or not. I don't know if Ron Roberts is going to do it or if they're going to bring one in, but it's came together very nicely. I will give Ryan Silverfield credit, especially on the defensive side. I mean, it's a lot of SEC experience on the defensive side of the ball. Since the last pod, I think the new additions are we have decided to retain Morgan Turner, which is not a surprise. We've been saying that for a while. When they let Eric Mateos go, we started seeing reports that Morgan Turner may be the one guy they retain off the staff and tight ends coach. TJ Rushing, I think was the next guy. He was hired as a cornerbacks coach, which is interesting to me that this is the first time I can remember this. So we have a cornerback coach. CJ Williford is coaching the safeties. And then we have a secondary coach, Darren Wilson. So usually there was a day and time not long ago where you just had a secondary coach. He did it all. And then we kind of went to, we have a corners and a safeties coach. Well, now we have a corners, a safeties, and a secondary coach. So, I mean, I think obviously the more coaching you can get, the better. I'm not sure if that's a common thing in the SEC now, that you have 3 coaches just for your secondary alone, which is wild to me. But yeah, TJ Rushing came from Auburn. Anybody who's worked with DJ Durkin in that defense, I think that's a good hire. Obviously not super familiar with TJ Rushing. Defensive line, the reports are Marion Hobby. He was at Tennessee last year. A lot of NFL experience. Once again, SEC experience, NFL experience. I like an experienced guy in the trenches on the defense. I just feel like I don't have any studies or data to back that up, but I personally like an older guy on the defensive line with some experience. And so, once again, outside of our linebackers, that pretty much puts the defensive staff together right there. And it's everybody on that staff has coached in the SEC at some level, which I love. So, defense, I've said this from the beginning, man, it's about players. Got to find players. I feel like offense, you can X and O and create some stuff. Defense, man, you just got to have dudes and then coach them dudes up and put them in the right positions and let them go eat. And so, um, that's the only drawback I have is on this defensive staff is, People at Florida said Ron Roberts was not a great recruiter. He's a great X&O guy. Hopefully these other guys are elite recruiters. We could get some straight up dogs on that defensive side of the ball. Obviously having Quincy Rhodes back is a big start. And so the other staff addition that they made was Clint Trickett, as the has been reports are. None of this is official. The U of A has not released anything, but reports are that Clint Trickett has been named the quarterbacks coach, which is, from everything I've seen and from national people specifically, very highly thought of. Clint Trickett is. He is coming over from Jacksonville State. He was the offensive coordinator at Jacksonville State in Conference USA. They had the number one offense in the conference at 419 yards per game offensively. Once again, young guy, probably a hot name, may only be a year or two here, and he may get a coordinator job at a Power 4 school is kind of the people that I see talking his trajectory might be. Has played quarterback at West Virginia and Florida State. And then he worked under Lane Kiffin at FAU. And so, once again, obviously Lane, we know what he's doing with offense and how he's revolutionizing the game offensively. And, Kendall Browse was there at FAU. So you take some of that Kendall Browse stuff, some of that Lane Kiffin stuff, and then whatever Trickett's kind of philosophy is, and, once again, put Jacksonville State on the map with the number one offense in the Conference USA. And now you get him here and you just get to let him coach quarterbacks, coach up KJ Jackson. And so sounds like a really good hire for quarterback coach. Then the last hire, kind of, arguably the most important hire. I'm going to butcher his name, but Gazka Crowley. He was the GM at Arizona. And obviously I've never heard of this fella. But all you have to do is, when national guys are reporting and talking good about your hire, that's a pretty good sign because they don't do that very often. But boy, the national writers and the pundits and the analysts were raving about this guy on Twitter as Arizona's general manager. And obviously they, at Arizona, they were pretty bad. They hired a new coach. They brought this Crowley fella in, and they were 9-3 this year. Great season for Arizona. And I think it's just kind of opening that we didn't even have a general manager until last year. We were the only school in the SEC who didn't have a general manager. And we went out and hired Remy Cofield. And they said at the time that Remy's basically only he's in charge of everything, but like football's his deal. Sam didn't really want to work with the money, so Remy Cofield was going to be the football money guy. Obviously, you may be the general manager over it all, but like you're not going to go in and tell Cal how much money he has to spend on players or who he can or can't buy or who Cal can or can't afford. So he probably didn't even touch basketball. And to a lesser extent of Cal, same thing with baseball. Like, for the most part, you would like to think Dave's going to be able to get the guys he wants. And, I've heard some things that Dave's not real happy right now, maybe with his NIL situation. But, Remy Cofield was brought in to mainly take care of football, even though he was over everything. Well, and then the reports came out, and I'm still seeing it everywhere that Scott Gasper's coming from Memphis. He was the GM at Memphis. He's coming with Silverfield to Arkansas. So then I'm like, okay. So I guess Remy and Scott are going to work together. I don't know, how many GMs can you have? Well, now you're bringing in this Gazka Crowley guy who everybody's just raves about. So now you have 3 general managers. So it almost looks to me like they're building a front office, like a professional team, a front office. Um, I don't know exactly what that looks like, but you don't just have one general manager. You have, your GM, your vice president of operations, your president of scouting, your blah, blah, whatever. And that almost kind of feels like what they're doing. So it does, it does appear that adding these positions, and it looks like there has been some money come in, which we were told there was. And so it looks like there has been some money come in, and they're putting it with these new GMs and adding defensive coach. And so, I'm thoroughly pleased with the staff that Coach Silverfield's put together. I think everybody that listens to the pod knows that I was as critical of this hire as could be. Um, and obviously there's still a lot to be determined. But flipping the in-state recruits, getting KJ to stay, getting Quincy to stay, looks like he's putting together a really, really solid staff that can compete in the SEC. Now he's just got to go hit this portal hard that opens up here after New Year's and see what he can bring in out of the portal. That's the next step for sure. So bravo to Coach Silverfield. I like what he's doing, and hopefully he can keep it up and it can bring on some victories to the Hogs, because as excited as we are about this is the same stuff that every other SEC team's been doing. So we're just trying to get closer to them. We're not doing anything nobody else is doing. We're not reinventing the wheel. We're just catching up. But yeah, so excited about that. The schedule was released. The SEC released a schedule for next year. I'll pull that up and we can kind of go over that. Just gaze at it. We're not going to be making predictions or anything today. Yeah, so here's the schedule. Obviously, North Alabama to start. Then right after that, go to Utah. Some big news out of Utah. Kyle Whittingham has announced he's retiring. So I don't know what they're going to do about a coach at Utah, but that's obviously going to be a really tough game. On the road, great atmosphere. People, I'm just telling you right now, we can just pray that is not a night game, because I would put Utah as a top 3 or 4 toughest place to play at night in the country. I think of Kyle Field. I think of Utah. Off the top of my head, those may be the 2 toughest places to play at night in the country. So yeah, that's obviously. But we knew we were going to Utah, and then you get into the meat. Welcome to the SEC. You got Georgia coming to Fayetteville. Welcome Ryan Silverfield to Arkansas. Here's you a little housewarming gift. Get you some Kirby Smart in Georgia for your first ever SEC game. Thank you, SEC. Then we get Tulsa. I know Tulsa wasn't very good this year, but yeah, I'm not sure. With the portal, you never know what they'll look like next year. On the road at Texas A&M, then Tennessee at home. That's your first 6. And it's a pretty tough first 6. At Utah, at A&M, Georgia and Tennessee at home. The good news, if there is any, is I would say the second half doesn't look as brutal maybe as it quite has been. At Vanderbilt, which I think Clark Lee is one of the best in the business, but obviously losing Diego Pavia, the Heisman runner-up, not saying we're going to win that game. There's a lot to be determined, but, at Vanderbilt is a winnable game. Missouri at home. I love having Missouri not after Thanksgiving. LSU just belongs after Thanksgiving. It just does. And I was never more happy. I started hearing those rumors, during football season, you started hearing those rumors that LSU is going to go back to after Thanksgiving. And just right where it belongs. So, but yeah, Missouri there in the middle at home again. We need to spank Drink and make them like it. And maybe Pittman can never do it. Maybe Silverfield can get it done. At Auburn, obviously that's a big one for the Golish connection. A lot of people was obviously reported that Golish was coming to Arkansas, so that'll be a big game. South Carolina at home, Shane Beamer. Yeah, he keeps saying, well, this time next year we'll be talking about us in the playoff. Well, that's close to the end, so either he'll be fired or they'll be hunting for a playoff spot. Maybe we could ruin that in Fayetteville. And nothing about South Carolina scares me. The North Sailors, they haven't announced if he's coming back or not. I think that says a lot right there that he's even considering leaving. So a lot of drama over there, even with the hire of Kendall Browse. At Texas, we got to go back to Texas again. That'll obviously be a tough one. And then you finish out the year with Lane Kiffin and LSU coming into Fayetteville. But yeah, that's what it looks like. And so I don't know. I feel like we've definitely had tougher schedules. But this all one obviously has its challenges and is not easy. It's really weird not seeing Ole Miss or Mississippi State on the football schedule. I mean, for as long as I've been following football, 1997, we've played Ole Miss, Mississippi State every single year. And so that's weird to me. I don't love that. Especially now that Lane's not at Ole Miss, they're not going to be as good. And so you just kind of wish you had them on the schedule. And it's never a bad thing to have Mississippi State on the schedule. But yeah, that's what the schedule looks like for next year. So let me know what you think about that. You think we got a fair end of the deal, or if we got a raw end of the stick there? And that about sums it up. There were some great basketball games this weekend. There was some, Army-Navy football game was electric as always. So that, yeah, there was some good football, good basketball. NFL, there was some big news in the NFL. Obviously, I know we don't talk a ton of NFL on this pod, but Patrick Mahomes tore his ACL Sunday, so that's sad to see. And with the Chiefs' loss, I believe they're out of the playoffs. So I feel like that's the only way that I can confidently think that the Chiefs won't win the Super Bowls if they don't make the playoffs. Because I keep saying I'll believe it when I see it. Like they're there every single year, even on their down years, they still make a run in the playoffs with Mahomes and Kelsey and crew. Yeah, Patrick Mahomes tears his ACL, so you hate to see that. And then Micah Parsons tears his ACL with Green Bay. The former Dallas player. So tough week for a couple of the studs in the NFL. I talked a little bit about some of the basketball games. Arizona went. It was technically a neutral site game, but they went to Birmingham and played Alabama, and they just laid the hammer, 96-75. So pretty much a home game for Alabama. Arizona is good. And Gonzaga beat UCLA by 10. Pretty good game. I didn't get to watch it, but I saw the highlights. And Gonzaga, obviously top 10 team in the country. Louisville hammered Memphis. I'm telling you, that's going to turn out to be a good win. Louisville may be a 2 seed in the tournament, and that's going to be a good win for us. And then Nebraska's undefeated, people. Yes, they do play basketball in Nebraska. Fred Hoiberg at Nebraska, he's great coach at Iowa State, went to the NBA, didn't have a ton of success. Now he's at Nebraska. He has Nebraska ranked, and they beat number 13 Illinois 83-80 over the weekend. And so those were a couple of the bigger games on the docket. We'll be back on Friday. Andrew will be back. We'll do our college football playoff predictions on Friday, and we will do our our top 5 Christmas movies for you on Friday. So, anyways, I appreciate everybody for listening. If give us a like, follow, subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We appreciate the continued support, the continued growth. Tell a friend about us, and we will be back Friday. So as Andrew says, go Hogs, never yield with Silverfield. Woo pig.